Support for Connecticut East this week comes from the Connecticut Technology Council, presenting the 19th Annual Women in Innovation Awards, Tuesday, October 22nd in Branford, honouring outstanding women in the STEM fields. To learn more and to purchase tickets for the event, visit ct.org/Women of Innovation. Nutmeg Pharmacy, reminding you to get your flu, COVID and RSV vaccinations now to protect you and your loved ones. Visit us in Higganum, Moodus, Centrebrook, Taffill and New London, and at our website at nutmegpharmacy.com. And Media Here and Now, a full-service content creation agency producing video, audio, podcasts and digital content for social media, online and broadcast use for all types of businesses, organisations and non-profits. Find out more at mediahereandnow.com. They're 143 years old and only open for 3 to 4 months a year. We take a visit to the iconic B.F. Clyde's cider mill in Mystic and find out more about the last steam-powered cider mill in the nation. Plus, we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. We've officially entered fall, and with that comes all things pumpkin and spice, but all things apple and cider. And for one iconic company based in Mystic, now through the end of the year is when they will serve up fall favourites of gallons of sweet and hard cider, as well as dozens and dozens of cider donuts. We are at B.F. Clyde's Cider Mill in Mystic, Connecticut. We have 3 family members with us today on Connecticut East. So I'm just going to quickly go round to the table and let them introduce themselves.
My name's Sarah. I work in operations and in hard cider.
Amy. I'm...
Everything, I hear.
Yes, everything.
Including historian, and we'll get back to that in a moment.
I'm Marissa. I am a cashier, and I also do social media.
So, of course, we should make it very clear if people aren't aware about Clyde Cider Mill. It is a family-owned business, has been family-owned since 1881, since it opened. So that's like 143 years. We're going to dive straight in at Amy, because you are the historian. Tell us a little bit about it, because it is a well-known landmark. Parents come here, kick off at school. You know, you open on the 1st of September. But it is one of those iconic places, isn't it, here in Mystic?
Yes, it is. We like the fact that, you know, people came as children and now they're bringing their grandchildren. That's pretty amazing to all of us. We think that, you know, that it can be carried on to the generations like that, and we're proud of it.
The other thing as well is, and we heard it go off actually just before we started doing the interview, and I'm sure we'll hear it again, it's the last steam-powered cider mill in the United States. Tell us a little bit about that and why obviously makes you unique.
It's, like I said, we started in 1881, and he used a mill down the road, and then in 1898 he was able to save up enough money to get the press and the wood to build the mill, and so he was up and rolling for the fall of 1898 with this press in this mill, and we've been running every fall since. And it goes to one child in the family, and that's how we keep it from, I guess, breaking down and having to sell, because it goes to one child. Whereas if it went to 3 children, then those 3 children have 3 children, and I think that's what kills a lot of the businesses, is then they fight because some of them don't want to do it, and some of them can't afford to buy another one out, and then it crumbles and falls apart. So we laugh here and we say, yeah, we all know it's never been a secret. It's going to my brother Joshua. He's the youngest, but he can't work it without any of us. So we make ourselves invaluable.
Oh, and most certainly, as we said before we were starting the interview, you know, the fact that all of you step into many various roles. Just before we talk a little bit more specifically about the business and your separate roles as well, it's had a checkered history, is sort of like probably a little bit overdoing it, but I mean, you know, when Benjamin Franklin Clyde and his wife bought this back in 1881, I mean, then a few years after that, prohibition started. So there was a little bit of an issue there, wasn't there? Because I read a cute little story about that. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes. Abby Clyde, the prohibitionists, came to knock the heads out of her, quote, vinegar stock, because the stages of the cider, it goes from sweet cider to hard cider, then to vinegar. So she was arrested twice, never convicted. Her excuse to the judge was, "I'm sorry, Judge, if I sold my vinegar stock a little early."
That's a great story. Sarah, let's turn to you. Operations, which I suppose really can cover so many different things. Like we said, all of you are so multi-talented and it's like in multiple roles. Talk to us a little bit about, your day-to-day here and why you wanted to stay, obviously, in this business. Because, as Amy was saying, not all families want to carry on in a family business. So why was that important to you?
So I started working here as soon as I was tall enough to see over the counter as a cashier. And I did leave when I was about 18 because I wanted to see other things. I wanted to make sure that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And I came back about 5 years ago because I had decided, I can't do retail. It's not for me. I got a taste of working for the family business, and that's really all I wanted to do. And that's when I started to step into more of an operational role. I started with hard cider tastings, and then I moved into social media, which now Marissa handles. But in my day-to-day, I do a lot of the hiring, I do a lot of the scheduling, I do a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to make things work. I also manage our website, and on the weekends, I work in our hard cider cellar, so I bottle most of the hard cider jugs and growlers that we sell here.
You all really do. So like multiple roles. We're here today on a Tuesday. It's a little bit quieter than probably the weekend sort of thing, and we're in September. It's a lovely September day. Talk to us about how crazy it can get, because I actually was here on September 1st, which, as we said earlier in the interview, is your first day every year that you open up until around about, end of November, mid-December. But how crazy does it get?
Very crazy. We suggest that people come with a group of friends, and that way one can stand in line and the other ones can go do wine tasting or grab a boozy slushie, and then they switch out, and then so that way it goes a little bit easier, because it does get very crazy.
Let's bring Marissa in, because she's been sat there patiently waiting to take her turn. Sarah said you do social media again. Talk to us about what your day involves as well, because it's clearly not just social media, although social media in itself, even for something like this, I can imagine really is quite challenging, because that probably drives a lot of traffic here as well.
Yeah, I would say so. I think on Instagram we're kind of creeping up to like 20,000 followers, which is super exciting. I think that people see us on Instagram, Facebook. We've been on Facebook for the longest time. That's probably where we started it all, where you would just put up a simple post like, we're open, and 50 people see it and they all come down. But now it's thousands of people every weekend, and they see us all across the different social media platforms. At 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll probably see me standing in front of the mill with a donut in my hand and my phone in the other, trying to take the picture for the day or taking videos and stuff like that. But the majority of the time that I'm here, I'm usually behind the register, I would say, doing the cashiering, spending a lot of time with, face-to-face interactions with customers, which is always fun. Long days, but it's definitely, it's a good job. I can't complain about that.
She's not simply just a cashier. I couldn't run this store without Marissa. I mean, I've got to be around all the other buildings that we have and I'm not privileged to be in here a lot of the time, and if I didn't have Marissa in there, it would fall apart. So she's not simply just a cashier behind the cash register.
That's a main part of what I do, but I place orders. I used to help Sarah when she would do some of the hiring. I come in before we start, stock the shelves, stay late, but I mean, we all do that. Like my aunt says, many hands make for light work. So when we all pull our weight, it makes the job easier, and it doesn't really feel like a job when you come here. It's just, this is what I do every day, and I love doing it. So it doesn't really feel like work when I talk about it.
I'm guessing it's quite intense though, because like we said, you're only open for around about three and a half months, so like the fall into winter season. You get thousands of people pour through here, and you're open 7 days a week as well. So I mean, it really must be, as I say, quite challenging at times. Especially, there's hungry people waiting for those fabulous donuts.
99.9% of our customers that come through here are fantastic. They understand they're going to be coming waiting a while. They're used to it. They don't mind it. They know what they're in for when they come. But working 7 days a week can be challenging, but I only have to work 7 days a week for 4 months out of the year. I mean, we come back in about June to start doing the ordering and the cleaning and the painting and all that stuff to get ready for the season, but I don't have to be here 7 days a week then.
I'm going to say what happens when you actually close down, because, I mean, it's 3.5 months of intense work, keeping people happy, etc. But, the place doesn't look after itself. It needs some love and attention. You've got some beautiful buildings here. We're sat outside, as I say, in a lovely September day, looking at the grist mill, looking also at the main place where obviously people can go in and buy all of the goodies. So, I mean, it's really, I suppose, still a year-round affair.
Yeah, my brother lives here on property, and he does most of the maintenance for everything that, year-round. If something in the winter he notices something off, he's here checking the buildings all the time.
Now, talk to us about, obviously, the stuff that you sell, which, of course, first, of course, came the cider years ago. And I believe the donuts, I was doing a little bit of research, they only started being sold back in 1997, so about 27 years. But again, popular item. Just talk to us, if you would. I don't know, Amy, if it's probably your wheelhouse really for this. You don't grow your own apples, do you? Just talk to us about that whole process. But you use a lot of them.
Yes, we do. We used to. We've never grown our own apples. Well, we said that's a whole nother job in itself. We've always bought our apples. We used to buy local until probably about 30 years ago. Real estate around here went through the roof, and a lot of the apple orchards sold. My grandfather was on the road 5-6 days a week, starting up in Massachusetts and hitting 8 or 10 little orchards on the way down to get enough apples for the day. My dad finally said to him, Jack, we can't keep doing it this way. We've got to figure something out. And that's when they decided they were going to start getting them by tractor trailer loads. They come in from New York. They're called grade-offs. They're intended for the grocery store, but they're too big, too small, the wrong color. They got a pockmark on them. As long as they're a sound, ripe apple, we don't care what they look like. We'll grind them up. And Grandpa always said, you put good fruit in, you get good juice out. You put junk in, you get junk juice out. So
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, because you often wonder where those fruits and vegetables do actually go. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them, but sometimes they're referred to as the ugly apple or the ugly select vegetable sort of thing, because people apparently don't want to buy them because they're not perfect. But of course, absolutely perfect for you guys, like you said, as long as the quality is there. I understand, though, that from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, the cider will actually taste different. Who wants to talk about that? You, Amy, you're going to be doing most of this interview. They're supporting you, though.
Yeah, it's because the apples change. It's more tart in the beginning of the season. As you go further into the season, you get the deeper colors. Cider gets its color from the skin of the apple. So the lighter the skin, the lighter the cider. So the darker apples and the apples that have more body in them come a little later in the season. So it gets a little thicker, a little darker, a little less tart, more sweet.
I'm guessing your cider is different to stuff that, you would buy maybe in a supermarket, because I'm guessing it's minimally processed and things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with, obviously, we should just make that clear. We're not knocking cider that you can purchase in your local supermarket or anywhere else. But of course, everybody has their way of doing things. So I'm guessing, as I say, yours is like minimally processed.
Well, we do go through a pasteurization process with our cider, but it's much different than a juice. It's not apple juice, because juice is made from a concentrate, and our apple cider is not. Ours is strictly apples. There's no added sugar to it. So it's not going to be exactly the same thing that you get from the grocery store. But in my opinion, I would always turn to cider versus apple juice.
I agree with you. I have tasted it and absolutely concur. Now, of course, you do sweet cider, but you also do hard cider, and you also do wines as well. What's the difference between a hard cider and a wine?
Taxes. It used to be anything that was straight apple. You could call it a hard cider or an apple wine, whatever you chose to, and it was taxed as a wine, which is a higher tax than a beer tax. And then all these bigger companies came along and wanted to produce a 5% hard cider, but they didn't want to pay the wine tax. They wanted to pay a beer tax, which is a lot less. So they went and lobbied and had the law changed. So anything over 7% has to be called a wine, and it's taxed as a wine. Anything under 7% is called a hard cider or a wine, whichever you prefer, but it's taxed as a beer. We have some that do say hard cider on the label because we were grandfathered in, because we'd made it 100 and however many years before they decided to change the law.
But you do have a superb range of apple wine, and that's very different to the hard ciders, because you've got something like about, 10 to 14 different varieties of that, and you've got a tasting room. Talk to us about that, because that probably makes you sort of like unique in the cider mills that are actually around Connecticut as well.
Yeah, we have many different ones. We have 16 different ones in the bottles. The difference between what you get from our classic from the basement hard cider and the stuff you get that's bottled is the stuff in the basement straight out of the barrel. So if it gets warm, it will start to work again and it'll turn into vinegar. The stuff on the shelf has been filtered and stabilized, so you can put it on your shelf like a normal bottle of wine and it'll stay 9 months to a year.
What would you say, Sarah, is one of the best parts of your job? It's probably that $64 million question. But I mean, give us a sense. You told us earlier, the various things that all of you get up to. But what would you say is one of the highlights of the job that you do here?
I really love working in the hard cider cellar. That's been the most consistent thing about my job since I came back. I really love talking to our regulars, because we have some regulars that have been coming since before I could even walk. And it's great getting to see them, catch up with them, watch how their lives change, and talk to them about mine. It's really cool.
I was going to say, because it's one of of these locations that you do keep coming back to. It's not like, and again, we're not knocking museums, but, sometimes you go to a museum and it's like it's one and done sort of thing. You can't not but come back here, can you, Marissa?
Yeah, I would say I see the same people that come weekly, bi-weekly, people that make that one trip up and they're like, oh, I remember you, like you helped me last year. And while I might not always remember you right off the bat, because I've got hundreds of people coming through the door every day, but it's always nice to be able to be recognized and know that they come back and know that your product is good and consistent enough to have people come back year after year, week after week, honestly, and bring their family, tell their friends. It's very rewarding, I would say, to be able to have that base of people who come here all the time and who plan on coming here as long as they can and bringing people that they know.
Do you get people stocking up as well? Because people must really want to stock up on this stuff because they know that they can only get it for 3.5 months while you're open. Talk to us about that, because I should think that's probably quite a sight, watching somebody come in maybe with a large vehicle and sort of like wiping you out of cider.
Yeah, we do have people who come in, they'll buy cases of wine, they'll buy many jugs of hard cider. You have the regulars that come back mid-November and they'll start buying 15 gallons because you can freeze it, you can freeze donuts, and people are very shocked to find that out, but you can, and a lot of people do because they want to be able to enjoy it all year. And I say definitely stock up. You can start stocking up now and sticking it in your freezer if you really want, but you do have those people who come back towards the end of the season and they'll buy you out. You'll hold on to that last half gallon and they'll buy you out of it, which is great. I love it, but it's interesting to see how much you're going to buy to stock up.
The other thing, of course, is you're constantly innovating. We said, obviously, cider was what this all started on and still does continue, and obviously is one of the big sellers. Then the donuts came around, around about 30 years ago. I'm looking as Amy sits here. She has a slushie in front of her. We all know what slushies are, but that's something relatively new for you. But again, I suppose it's keeping up with trends and what people like.
Yeah, we started the slushies probably about the same time, probably about 25 years ago. We started the slushies and they just took off. And what it is we just take our sweet cider and we pour it into a slushie machine. We don't add anything to it, and it just freezes part of the cider, and it comes out a little bit sweeter than the regular because it freezes that watery part of the cider.
I believe you can get a hard slushy cider as well, can't you?
Oh, yes. All the different flavors of wine and hard cider we have, you can get put into a boozy slushie, as we call them. And then we have specials where we mix flavors together and whipped cream and sprinkles.
Just talk to us as well. I mean, there's a big team of people here. You are 3 of a team of people. I don't know who, maybe Sarah wants to pick up on this one, obviously being in operations. You were talking about the hiring. Just give us a sense of, how big that team is. And we said it's 7 days a week, but I mean, making donuts, baking, I mean, that takes a lot of time. So give us a sense of, how long people's days are.
So for donuts especially, that is the longest day out of everybody. That is my grandmother, who's the owner. Her name's Annette, and her twin sister, Susie. They start making donuts on the weekends around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to make sure that we are stocked up, and they are here with us until the time that we close, which can be 6:30 at night. So they definitely have the longest day. But our team, we have a lot of people on our team that makes things work. Both of my uncles work here. We have a lot of girls that come back year after year for cashiers. We have tasters that come back year after year, and they've really become a part of our family.
Which says a lot, obviously, about you as a family and how you treat people, because it's so easy for people to disappear, go off and do things, come here for maybe one season and then never come back again. The fact that they are coming back, not just the customers, of course, because they know how great the products are, sort of thing, but to actually have people come back, that no doubt helps with that sort of a little bit of that consistency as well, for you as a business.
Yeah, it helps a lot because the girls, they know the business, they know the customers that come in. Like Sarah said, we don't necessarily consider all of our employees. They're our family. I mean, without them, our business couldn't run and flow as the way it does. And we're very appreciative to them, and it shows with their loyalty coming back. And it's nice to see that, like I said, we consider them family.
Talk to us a little bit as well. You just mentioned a little while ago that, Annette, your mum, she's still working. I mean, I know it's rude to ask people's ages, but how old is Annette?
My mom just turned 70, and she was one of the hardest workers that we have here.
She obviously loves her job, her and her sister, and everybody here, and especially, as you said, to be getting up at that time. How many donuts, by the way, do you sort of like roughly go through in a day, do you think?
I have not a clue, to be completely honest with you. A lot. That's all I can say is a lot. I don't even know if they've counted.
To give you some perspective, on Sunday morning by 9:30, I think I sold 15 dozen donuts at that point. point. So that's just a half an hour of my day, and I have already sold 15 dozen. So just, it doesn't even compare to how many we sell in one day. It's crazy.
I'm guessing as well weekends are probably a little bit busier, are they? Because of, because it's, people have got sort of time off of work. Where do you see this? I know this sounds like a bit of a weird question because, you mentioned, Amy, at the top of this that, it goes from a member of the family and that helps, to keep it obviously in the family sort of thing and this great business going. Where do you see it going? Is there some are you going to grow it? Is there anything else that you want to do? Because like we said, there's trends, you see things happen. I mean, what you're doing clearly is clearly successful. It's 143 years worth of success and continuing. But, businesses sometimes do like to grow. Any plans?
Nothing in particular, but we always say you listen to the next generation because they're the ones that are going to know it. They're the ones that are going to help grow it. So every year we try to add a little something new to it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we try something new the next year. So
well, that sounds good. And Sarah, any final thoughts?
That's so open-ended.
We like to throw in an open-ended question every now and then. Okay, let me close it down a little bit for you. You said you've come back. You came back like 5 years ago. Where do you see yourself? Are you staying here now? It's family. You're back, sort of thing. Is this it for you for a while?
Definitely. I think that this is definitely where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. I don't see myself doing anything else. I've really settled into my role here, and I don't think I could be happy doing anything else at this point.
And actually, we'll give Marissa the final comment as well. Same question to you. Where do you see yourself?
I definitely still see myself here. I've worked other jobs, but I've always worked this one alongside it. I went to school. I still worked here. And I think that the best part is that it's always going to be, it's never going anywhere. And this business is always going to be here. Whether you want to leave, go do something else and come back, it's never going anywhere. And at this point, I don't see myself going anywhere either. I plan on being here for as long as I can and doing everything I can to help everybody here and make sure that this just stays being the great place that it is.
Well, those were all the words that we wanted to hear to make sure that this business continues for many, many more years to come. To the three of you, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know even though, as we said, it's a slightly slower day today, there's still plenty of work for all of you to do. But Sarah, Amy and Marissa of BF Clyde's Cider Mill in Mystic, ever so many thanks for being on the podcast.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And if you want to plan your visit to BF Clyde's Cider Mill in Mystic, you have plenty of time, but don't leave it too late. Head over to their website at clydescidermill.com. Connecticut East this week is made possible by the Connecticut Technology Council, recognizing STEM fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as critical to Connecticut's economy, providing jobs, careers, and business opportunities. Help celebrate the leadership of 45 outstanding women in STEM as we honor them at the 19th Annual Women of Innovation Awards event on Tuesday, October 22nd in Branford. Hear winners' inspiring stories and how these dynamic women are leading the way forward. Learn more at ct.gov/women of innovation. Nutmeg Pharmacy, reminding you it's flu season. Get your flu, COVID, and RSV vaccinations now and protect you and your loved ones. We are a full-service, independent pharmacy group providing prescriptions, over-the-counter medications, and more, plus free local delivery from our locations in Higganum, Moodus, Centerbrook, Taffville, and New London. Find out more about us and our services at nutmegpharmacy.com. And Media Here and Now is a full-service content creation agency based in Eastern Connecticut and producing video, audio, podcasts, and digital content for social media, online, and broadcast use for all types of businesses, organizations, and nonprofits. If you need a new company video or radio advert or want to start your own podcast, then get in touch and see how we can help you at mediahereandnow.com. Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week. First, it was the state stepping back from a new offshore wind project with Rhode Island and Massachusetts recently, and now Connecticut environmental groups want Governor Lamont to reject a fracked gas pipeline expansion into the state. Edwin J. Vieira of the Connecticut News Service reports.
Their concerns revolve around Enbridge's Project Maple, a proposed fracked gas pipeline extension from New Jersey to Rhode Island running across Connecticut. Enbridge says new capacity is needed to keep up with demand, but a major concern is leaking gas, which can lead to a range of health issues from respiratory disease to cancer. Martha Clyde with the Sierra Club Connecticut chapter says expanding the pipeline would also have sharp economic impacts on ratepayers.
Fracked gas infrastructure expansion has already driven ratepayer prices much higher over the last decade, and with more frac gas expansion, it will push it higher still.
Gas utilities in the state were granted rate increases earlier this year, which strained many Connecticut residents' budgets. Groups have rallied against the project and presented Governor Ned Lamont with a letter from environmental groups and elected officials to direct the state's Department of Energy and Environmental Conservation to deny state air and water permits for the proposal. I'm Edwin J. Vieira.
Around 45,000 lower-income Connecticut families could be missing out on COVID relief money. That's according to the non-profit United Way of Connecticut, who have launched a statewide outreach campaign called Get Your Refund CT. Patrick Gentile is the founding director of Simplify CT, a free tax preparation organization and campaign partner, and says there's a lot of money that's still unclaimed.
There's about $120 million available in federal earned income tax credits and child tax credits for the 2021 tax year for these 45,000 households who have failed to file their returns for a whole bunch of different reasons. So we have a call to action to help us find these 45,000 households and to get the money in their hands as quickly as possible before the statute of limitation expires.
Gentile says many first-time filers are concerned that filing for these COVID funds may affect their other government benefits, but that's not the case.
They're worried that they may be, as a result of filing, that they may lose critical social benefits like SNAP, temporary assistance for needy families, Section 8 housing. It is very clear that the IRS indicates that none of these credits, none of this income that's received can impact or take away any social benefit charges that families have. So that's one of the primary concerns of families coming in.
Residents could be entitled to thousands of dollars in relief funding depending on their yearly income levels and family criteria. The enhanced benefits must be claimed before April 15th, 2025, when they will expire. Details about the refunds and the campaign can be found at ctunitedway.org/get-your-refund. Eastern Connecticut State University is launching a series of events throughout the month of October called Voting Matters to try and grow voter registration and turnout among college students, an historically underrepresented group in elections. For most traditionally aged college students, those of Generation Z, this year's election is their first opportunity to vote for the President of the United States. A spokesperson for the university said the series of events is aimed to encourage active participation in the upcoming election in a non-partisan way, regardless of students' political opinions, and to get people aware of the importance of the election, no matter how they choose to vote. The series kicks off on September 30th with a Voting Matters expert panel discussion and will continue throughout October with public lectures and other events. Details of the Voting Matters series can be found at easternct.edu/vote. Mystic Aquarium have paid a fine of over $12,000 to avoid further legal costs in a dispute they have with the U.S. Department of Agriculture over allegations of how the aquarium and its staff dealt with the welfare of one of its beluga whales called Havoc back in 2021. A report released in 2022 by the USDA detailed how Havoc suffered from snout and other lacerations after swimming into a closed gate that had separated him from the main swimming pool, and that the whale was also suffering pre-existing ocular condition that had compromised his vision. It alleged that aquarium staff failed to notify veterinarians of concerning health behaviors exhibited by the sick beluga whale, as well as having unsafe bacteria levels in the animal's pools. The settlement reached in the case with Mystic Aquarium brings to an end the ongoing investigation and case dating back to 2021 when the whale died, and the settlement wording stated that the aquarium was neither admitting nor denying the alleged violations. A spokesperson for the aquarium said in a statement the settlement reflected their desire to move forward from the matter and focus on their mission, and that they disagreed with the USDA's report findings. Connecticut East this week reached out to both the aquarium and the USDA for further comment about the situation and the disagreement, but neither organization has responded back. And Engaging Heaven Ministries, who own the former First Congregational Church in downtown New London that collapsed unexpectedly in January of this year and became a viral sensation worldwide, have found themselves a new permanent home with the purchase of the second Congregational Church in the city for the price of just $1. The announcement was made by James Levesque, pastor of Engaging Heaven Ministries, via a social social media video recently. The site of the collapsed church has since been purchased by Eastern Connecticut Housing Opportunities, or ECHO, with plans to build housing on the site. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East and on Instagram at Connecticut East This Week. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week podcast. And please like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.